right now, Jaguar is buying electric cars back from its own customers because it has recalled them 4 times for catching fire and still can't make them safe. Volvo recalled more than 40,000 EX30s after the little SUV started catching fire in parking lots. And Volkswagen just told 44,000 ID.4 owners to stop fast charging and park outside before the battery burns the garage down with it. And if you think this is about people abusing their cars or skipping something, you're not even close. Not one of these caught fire because of how it was driven. Every single one was dangerous before it left the factory, with a defect sealed inside the battery. So which 7 electric cars are still catching fire in 2026? And why is the number one so dangerous the maker stopped trying to fix it and just started buying it back? Every number here comes from a federal recall or a documented fire because this audience checks. Stick around, because before the end, I'll show you the one setting on your own EV you'll want to change tonight. Number 7. The Mercedes EQB. We start small because this one shows you exactly how the pattern begins. In late 2025, Mercedes recalled a batch of EQB electric SUVs, the 250, 300, and 350, over a high-voltage battery that could short-circuit internally and catch fire. The number here is tiny, under 200 vehicles, and there are no reported fires, which is why it's at the bottom. But here's the detail worth holding on to. This recall was actually an extension of an earlier one. A documentation mix-up meant some cars never received the correct software fix the first time around. So Mercedes thought the problem was handled, and it turned out a batch of cars were still sitting out there at risk. Until owners get the update, Mercedes told them to stop charging past 80% because a fuller battery is a more dangerous battery when the cells are unstable. A small recall, no fires, easy fix. The least scary entry on this list. But remember that detail, a fire risk recall that had to be issued a second time because the first fix didn't take. Because you're going to see that exact pattern again at the very top of this list, on a scale that is anything but small. And before we go further, understand why any of this matters so much more in an electric car than a gas one. When a battery cell fails, it doesn't just burn. It goes into what engineers call thermal runaway. A chemical reaction that feeds itself, generating its own heat and even its own oxygen. Firefighters can't smother it the way they would a normal fire. It can take thousands of gallons of water and hours to cool a single pack, and it can reignite days later, sitting in a scrapyard, long after everyone thought it was out. That's the reason a park outside order exists at all. It's not bureaucratic caution, it's the fire department admitting they may not be able to stop it. Number 6. The BMW iX. BMW makes some of the most respected EVs in the world, the iX, the i4, the i7, which is why this one is easy to overlook and shouldn't be. In 2025, BMW recalled a batch of these electric cars, mostly the iX SUV, over high-voltage battery cell modules that may have been assembled improperly at the factory. Here's the mechanism. During assembly, too much force may have been used on the battery cell modules, stressing the frames that hold the cells. That stress can lead to a module failure, which can shut down the high-voltage system and, in the words of the recall itself, increase the risk of a fire. This is a small recall, only a little over 100 vehicles, and BMW has not reported any fires or injuries. But it's on the list for a reason. It's the same story as everyone else. A defect introduced on the factory line, inside the battery, on a premium car from a premium brand that the owner had no way of knowing about. BMW replaces the affected modules for free. Small numbers, but the exact same root cause as the fires further up this list. And it's worth sitting with that for a second. This is BMW, a company whose entire brand is built on precision engineering, on doing things properly, on the idea that you're paying more because it's built better. If a defect can slip past BMW's assembly line and into the battery of a 6-figure electric flagship, it tells you the problem isn't sloppiness at one bad factory. It's that building a safe, defect-free battery pack, cell after cell, thousands of times a day, is one of the hardest manufacturing challenges in the entire car industry. And even the best in the world don't always get it right. Number 5. The Nissan Leaf. The Leaf is one of the oldest, most trusted EVs on the road, which is exactly why this one stings. In early 2026, Nissan recalled a batch of the newest Leaf over a defect buried in its 78 kilowatt-hour battery pack. Here's what goes wrong, in plain terms. When these cells were manufactured, the edges of the cathode material inside them got damaged. Those torn edges can fold over on themselves inside the cell, creating a short circuit. A short means overheating. Overheating means a thermal event, and a thermal event in a lithium battery means fire. This one is small in volume, only about 50 vehicles, because Nissan was able to trace the exact bad battery packs to the exact cars. But it jumps ahead of the last two because these weren't just at risk. Two of them had already had thermal incidents by the time of the recall, one in Japan, one in the United States. And both happened while the car was simply parked. Nobody driving, nobody charging aggressively, just a parked car that overheated on its own. Nissan replaces the entire pack, tracing each bad battery to each car by its ID number. And the Leaf owner did nothing wrong except buy the car. That's the quiet horror of this whole category. There is no warning light for a cell that's about to fail, no strange noise, no way to smell it coming. The first sign that anything is wrong is smoke, and by then, it's already too late to stop it. And here's the knock-on effect owners don't think about. The moment your exact model shows up in a fire recall, its resale value takes a hit that has nothing to do with your specific car. Buyers get spooked, the headlines do the damage, and even a perfectly repaired vehicle sells for less. A battery defect doesn't just threaten to burn your car down, it quietly burns a hole in what the car is worth. Number 4. The Hyundai Ioniq 5. Hyundai built its whole EV reputation on the Ioniq 5, one of the most awarded electric cars of the decade, which is what makes 2025 and 2026 so brutal for it. The Ioniq 5 was recalled more times in a single year than in any year before, and one of those recalls was a battery fire risk serious enough that federal regulators told owners to park outside, away from structures. Here's the defect. Inside the high-voltage battery, a metal strip called a bus bar, which connects the cells, was in some cars installed with bolts that weren't tightened properly because a torque tool on the assembly line had failed. A loose bus bar can arc and short-circuit inside the pack, and that can start a fire. Now, in fairness, and because this channel deals in facts, Hyundai caught this one fast in a factory audit. The number of affected cars was small, and there were no reported fires. That's the good news. But the reason the Ioniq 5 sits this high isn't the size of one recall, it's the pattern. This is a flagship EV, a car that wins awards, from a brand near the top of the quality rankings, and it still went through its worst recall year ever, including a battery fire risk that put owners in park outside mode. If it can happen to the Ioniq 5, the poster child for how good a modern EV can be, a car that consistently ranks near the top of the industry's own quality studies. It tells you the factory defect problem isn't limited to the cheap cars or the rushed ones, it's industry-wide. Any battery from any brand at any price can leave the factory with a defect nobody catches until it's under your car. And that's a far scarier thought than any single recall, because it means the question isn't whether your brand is one of the good ones. The question is whether your specific car, built on your specific day, on a line where a tool might have failed or a supplier might have shipped a bad batch, happened to get one of the defective packs. It's a lottery nobody tells you you're entering. Quick thing, because this is exactly the kind of story this channel exists for. If you want to know which EV gets a park outside fire order next, before you buy it, subscribe. I cover every one of these battery recalls the week it hits. Number 3. The Volkswagen ID.4. Now, the numbers get serious, and so does the fire evidence. In early 2026, Volkswagen recalled around 44,000 ID.4 electric SUVs in the United States across the 2023 through 2025 model years, over a high-voltage battery that could overheat and burn. The cause is a manufacturing defect in the battery cells supplied to Volkswagen by SK Battery America. Certain cells left the factory with shifted electrodes inside them, which can cause the cell to slowly self-discharge, overheat, and in the worst case, spread that heat to the next cell, the chain reaction that engulfs an entire pack. This is not theoretical. Volkswagen's own investigation traced 3 separate thermal events back to the battery in May, June, and October of 2025. And here's the instruction that should land. Volkswagen told ID.4 owners to stop using DC fast charging, keep the charge limit at 80%, and in the most affected cases, park outside, not in the garage overnight. Think about what that actually means. You bought an electric SUV, and the manufacturer is now telling you that you can no longer use the fast charging it was sold with, and you should be afraid to park it inside your own home. The fix is a battery module replacement, plus new detection software designed to catch a failing cell before it spreads to its neighbors. But until you get it, you're living with a car VW has quietly labeled a fire risk, and this one has already had 3 real thermal events, and VW is one of the largest car makers on Earth. If the company that builds millions of vehicles a year can ship 44,000 with a battery defect this serious, no brand is immune. And notice, this isn't a software glitch you can patch overnight. The remedy involves physically pulling battery modules out of the car and replacing them, which means dealers, parts, and long waits, all while owners keep parking a suspected fire risk in the meantime. Number 2. The Volvo EX30. Volvo built its entire identity on one word: safety. So when the Volvo X30, one of its newest and most popular small EVs, started catching fire, it became one of the most damaging EV stories of the year. In early 2026, Volvo recalled over 40,000 EX30s worldwide over battery modules that could overheat and catch fire, cells supplied by a Geely-owned joint venture. And these fires are documented and real. In Thailand, 2 separate EX30 fires were serious enough that the country's consumer protection watchdog began considering civil action against Volvo. Owners there had done nothing more than charge the car and park it. As the fires added up, some EX30 owners stopped asking for repairs and started publicly demanding full refunds because they no longer trusted the car to sit outside their home. Volvo's interim guidance was the same story you've heard all list: limit charging to 70%, park outside, away from buildings. And the replacement parts have been delayed, in part by supply problems overseas, leaving owners waiting months. When the safest brand in the entire car industry is the one telling you to keep your charge low and your car away from your house, and its owners are demanding their money back after real fires, you understand why trust in these battery packs is eroding faster than the industry wants to admit. And the recall cost Volvo an estimated $195 million on a car that was supposed to be its affordable EV breakthrough. It's a genuine fire story on tens of thousands of cars, and the only thing keeping it out of the number 1 spot is that the car at number 1 has been catching fire for years, across 4 separate recalls, and still can't be fixed. Number 1. The Jaguar I-PACE. Everything you've heard on this list, the internal short, the thermal runaway, the park outside order, the recall that had to be repeated. Now imagine all of it happening not once, not twice, but 4 separate times on the same car for the same defect, and the manufacturer still can't fix it. That's the Jaguar I-PACE, and it is the clearest, most damning EV fire story of 2026. The I-PACE was Jaguar's first electric car, a genuinely beautiful, award-winning luxury SUV. And its high-voltage battery, built with cells from LG, has a defect called folded anode tabs, where a layer inside the cell folds over on itself and creates the conditions for a short circuit and a fire. In February of 2026, Jaguar issued its 4th recall for this exact battery fire risk. Here's why that's so much worse than it sounds. Each of the previous recalls came with a fix, usually a software update that capped the charge and was supposed to keep the battery safe. And the cars kept catching fire anyway. Jaguar's own field evidence showed the risk was still there after the earlier remedies. So owners who did everything right, who brought their car in, who got it fixed, were still driving a car that could burn. And here's the part that tells you how serious this really is. For a batch of the earliest affected I-PACEs, Jaguar couldn't develop a permanent fix at all. So instead of repairing them, the company started buying the cars back from owners. Think about what that means. An automaker looked at its own electric car, decided the fire risk could not be engineered out, and chose to purchase the vehicles back rather than keep trying. In the meantime, owners are told to park away from buildings, charge outside only, and live with a lower charge limit, a shorter range, and a resale value that has collapsed. Nearly 800 owners publicly demanded a permanent fix or a buyback. A car recalled 4 times, still catching fire after every fix, that the manufacturer is now repurchasing because it gave up. That is number 1, and nothing else comes close. So here's the setting I promised you. Look back across this entire list, and the manufacturer's emergency instruction was almost always the same. Keep the battery below 80%, sometimes 70 or 90, and don't lean on fast charging. That's not a coincidence, and it's not legal cover. A fuller battery holds more energy under more stress, so a lower charge limit genuinely lowers the odds of a thermal event on a defective pack. Setting your daily charge limit to 80% tonight, right in the app, costs you nothing and buys you real margin while you wait on any recall. It's the single most useful thing you can do. And the free 30-second check before you buy any used EV? Run the VIN through the Federal Recall Database at nhtsa.gov. Every car on this list is searchable there, free, in about the time it takes to read this sentence. Before you hand over $1 for a used electric car, run that VIN and find out whether the battery under the floor is under an open park outside fire order that the previous owner never bothered to fix. Because that liability follows the car, not the person who sold it to you. And that's the thread running through all 7. Not one of these fires started because of how the car was driven. Every single one traces back to the factory: a torn electrode, a shifted cell, a loose bus bar, a folded anode tab sealed under the floor before the first owner ever plugged in. That's not a maintenance problem, that's a manufacturing problem. And you're the one told to park outside and hope. Let me be clear, because it matters. Electric cars are not the rolling death traps some people online want you to believe. The motors are rock solid, the overall fire numbers are genuinely lower than gas cars, and most EVs will never give you a single problem. But the battery is the exception, the one part that turns a factory defect into a fire in your driveway. And in 2025 and 2026, those recalls have come faster than any year before. So before you sign for any EV, new or used, check the model, run the recall, and set that charge limit. Jaguar is still buying cars back, Volvo owners are still waiting on parts, and Volkswagen owners still can't fast charge. I'll be here with the numbers on every one of them. Subscribe because this list is not finished, and neither are they.